Hey, what is up, guys? It is Slick or Slickmuff here, back again with another video, and this will be my first episode in a brand new series that is still actually unnamed. So if you have any suggestions for that, please do leave that in the comment section below. I will be interviewing some of the top talent in the YouTube comic book movie space, all that type of stuff. And my first guest is a true icon in the industry, and that is Kwing. Luke, better known as kWing on YouTube, has ascertained over 470 million video views on YouTube between two wildly successful YouTube channels. kWing is the host of the popular lore series Arkham Wednesdays and is the co-host of kWing's Let's Plays. kWing is one of the leading experts on Batman lore and mythos in the world. He is also a big Power Rangers fan. Luke, thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, no problem. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So let's just kind of start right from the top and start with your sort of start on YouTube and also I guess in life. So where did you grow up, and would you say that your childhood was relatively a positive experience, and just tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Outside of school, it was. I came from a very loving family. Um, School was rough, but I enjoyed time with most of my friends in the area. I grew up in Peekskill, New York, which is kind of an offshoot of New York City. It's about 35, 40 minutes away, depending, traffic with the highway.
Right.
And then I moved to upstate New York, near Albany, when I was about, I want to say, probably 10, something like that, 10 or 11. I've been all
Really
over the place.
interesting. So my family is actually from Albany, Mechanicville as well. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh,
Mechanicville. Are you from there? Like around that area?
Uh, I lived in a little town called Berlin, and I went to a school in near Scroon Lake.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. So, what type of things were you into as a kid? Like, were you really into like the nerdy stuff, or did you play sports, or what was up
No,
there?
no, I don't play sports. I was
Okay,
actually a very uh, I grew up well, we'll say that. But when I was a kid, I wanted to try out for hockey and do different things, but I was too, we'll say, plump. Um, High school changed that, but I was very, very quiet. I enjoyed a lot of video games, and we didn't have cable, so I'd have to watch tapes that my grandmother would send. So that's how I got, to see things like Batman the Animated Series, Power Rangers, X-Men. We didn't get cable until probably 94, something like that.
wow. So,
So,
so you just had VCR of all those things.
yeah, well, my grandmother would tape everything. So she
Oh,
would
okay.
send me every 3 months, I get a huge box with like probably 50 tapes in there, you know?
Whoa. So
So
you had to wait 3 months to get everything though.
yeah, but I binge watched before binge watching was a thing. So
That's true. Before Netflix even came out. That's awesome.
it makes
Okay.
it difficult to talk to people about, the current episode of the animated series, though, when, it had already been off the air for several months before I got to see it. But
Right.
I think that's kind of how I got really into a lot of the Batman stuff was I would just rewatch these episodes because it was like something special for me. Reruns were not really a thing in the early 90s until later.
Right.
So while everybody had to wait to watch their favorite episode, if they didn't tape it, I could go back and I could watch the first season in its entirety. And that's what I would do, like whenever I had free time or I wasn't, playing one of the many games that came out for the Super Nintendo or NES at the time.
Right. Do you still have those tapes?
Uh, I don't believe so, but I have all the DVDs.
Uh huh.
Like, I made it my mission in life to get Amber and I as many shows that, came out when we were kids so that we could continue to enjoy those as we gain up there in years.
Right.
So while I don't have the original tapes my grandmother made, I do have all the series that I used to watch from Batman, X-Men. I don't believe Spider-Man, the 90s series, has been on DVD yet, like in its entirety. I could be mistaken, but Batman Beyond, um, let's see what else. Some of the first season of Power Rangers was on
Uh
tape. I thought it was too violent though, so
huh. I
she had
gotcha.
limits about what she would tape.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. And then what about comic books? How did you get into comics?
Comic books was my grandfather.
Okay.
He was the one who got me into that stuff. But the thing is, it wasn't Batman books, it was Superman.
Interesting.
Well, he wanted me to as I got older, he wanted me to sell the comic books because he was getting them so that they would be worth something. Back
Mm,
there used to be baseball and comic book stores. There's not really an abundance of comic book stores anymore, but they used to sell Topps cards, the baseball cards, and then they'd have the comic section. So he would go in and he would get the first edition of pretty much the Superman books at the time when he started doing this was The Death of Superman. So I've got like
wow.
3 or 4 never opened editions of The Death of Superman.
Oh
And
my goodness.
yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I've had them for years. They're just sitting in a bin.
Whew.
And my dad was the one who bought me the Batman comics until Jean-Paul Valley took over as the Batman. And then my parents were like, yeah, no, we don't want you reading Batman books anymore.
Right.
So I was kind of bummed because I just started Batman books probably 91-ish, 92. And then Bruce was gone. And you had this crazy killer Batman, you know.
Yeah. Interesting. And so, would you say that Superman or Batman was your first kind of DC Comics love?
Batman was always my first.
Okay.
Batman was like a very rare comic book because my mom thought they were like incredibly violent and risque. She actually, I probably told this story in a video once, but how she would censor comic books for me is if she would go through and read them
Yeah.
first, and if she saw something that was too adult in nature, she would rip it out. So I would be reading the stories, and there would be pages of comic missing. Like either some guy got shot or a woman got hung or something. I would never know until years later when I recollected the issue. It'd be like, oh my gosh, there was so much of this comic ripped out. I had no idea, you know?
Right. Interesting. But at least she still gave you the book, so she didn't let you, you still got to read it, just minus a page or two. That's good, I guess.
Yeah, I got to read the books, but I think she was making up because when she was a kid, she basically threw out all my He-Man, Ghostbuster, and Thundercats toys.
And why is that? Because it was too violent?
No, had to do with apparently there was a paint scare in the 80s, something like that with lead paint.
Oh, okay. That makes
I
sense.
don't know if it was necessarily with those figures, but you know how moms get. They
Oh,
get
yeah.
paranoid. So one day in came Mr. Brown Bag and He-Man and company went off to off land of Eternia and I never saw them again. 10 years later, she was like, "Oh, I threw them out." It was like those would have been worth something now, you know? Like
Yeah, they would be. That's for sure. Well, the Death of the Superman books would be worth a lot. And then also, speaking to your point about the comic book stores, I mean, it's really really a tragedy what's happening with those stores. They're really closing down in droves. Even
just
the
had
rate, yeah,
we
it's
had
really unfortunate.
2 or 3 go down near Philly
Yeah,
recently. They've been there for probably 30, 40 years. They're gone.
yeah, it's really unfortunate. So let's move into the next stage of your life, so to speak, and with meeting your wife Amber, and then also your career before YouTube. So tell us a little bit about that. What did you do before getting into YouTube, and then also how did you meet Amber?
Oh my gosh, what did I do for YouTube before it?
Yeah.
I've done so many
Oh,
things.
you have? Okay.
I was heavily influenced by my grandfather. I wanted to be a police officer,
Okay.
and I
Interesting.
thought I was going to end up doing that, but I wasn't able to pass the physical limitations or they had medical concerns for me too because of stuff. So I was never really allowed to pursue that. In fact, in high school, when they were, whatever they call it, the school things where people come in and stuff, I was highly discouraged by the sheriff in that town not to pursue law enforcement because of some of my medical issues. And it
Okay.
was, and I talked to my grandfather who ended up, he was chief of police in his, district, and he wasn't comfortable with the idea of me becoming a cop either. So I did the next best thing. I became a security guard right out of high school. I did that for a while. It didn't go very well. I've had every type of job that you can think of. I was a radio DJ
Wait,
right
wait.
after
What do you mean it
school.
didn't go well? Like, what did you not like it, or were you not a good fit for the job, or what?
I got fired. I don't remember why I got fired, to be
Mm,
honest. I think they said I took a lot of risks because uh, I was just supposed to watch the monitors, but I'd go out into the parking lot or, you know, I was always looking for action because, I had this sense of justice and they didn't like it. So I wasn't there long.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay, I can see that.
well, we had the place I lived at that point, I was near Chicago and they didn't appreciate me taking unnecessary risks because the security guard is supposed to call the police if there's a prowler or any type of problems.
Yeah.
And, I just have a nightstick and a walkie-talkie. And the guy who worked with me, he did not like me because I was always pestering with different things. He was like, if you want to be a cop, be a cop. It's like, well, my family won't let me. And, also the cops have discouraged it too. So it's just kind of like, they felt better when I was gone because they didn't have to worry about any type of unnecessary risk happening. Because the next guy who I was training, not even know I was training the guy to take my replacement,
Right.
he's just very laid back, just watching the monitors, like, okay, I can totally do this. And it's just like a week later, I'm fired. I'm like, what? I thought I was doing a good job training this guy because I thought I was going to get a promotion as a supervisor or something.
Wait, so
But
you
nope.
trained your replacement, and then they backstabbed you basically with the new guy you trained.
That's happened a couple times.
Really?
Oh yeah. Sears Corporate. I would have been about 21. I had a incident where it was either 21 or yeah, it was right around there. I passed out from heat stroke in a Sears store near Boston where we were, and I was on medical leave for a while. I came back. I started training, which I didn't know was my replacement. I signed something that said I wouldn't sue Sears, and they fired me right before I got married. So
Whoa.
yeah, yeah, I was actually banking on that job too.
Dang.
Yep.
And how did they get you to sign that document? You just didn't know what it like.
I read it over, but I didn't think it was a termination one. It had like
Right.
very wordy language in it.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have a lawyer present because I was just a kid, I was working
Yeah.
3 jobs. I was just doing everything I could. I was a assistant manager at a game store. I worked at a furniture store with my fiance, and I was working Sears. So I was doing about 3 jobs at the time. And when I
Wow.
lost 2 of those jobs, then it was just Amber who had all the other stuff. She was working at an orthodontist place as like a secretary slash X-ray assistant,
Yeah.
and she was doing a furniture store, and she was doing another store. I don't remember it, but yeah, we had to work a lot back then. But on the side, in 2004, I started doing 2 years after I met her, I was doing what do you call it? Freelance journalist. I was
Okay.
doing um, different writings for other publications, submitting things. So I was trying to get into an actual job where I could do something I liked. Because I'd played video games from 86 all the way through the early 2000s. I never stopped playing them. Comic books I kind of put down for a while because I just was more interested in the stories and stuff of RPGs, and games were evolving so much that comic books just really didn't interest me as much. I once in a while would read Chuck Dixon's run for Nightwing and Robin,
Brilliant.
and
Yep.
when Hush started, I got really into that, but I wasn't really a quote subscriber for DC Comics anymore by the
Sure.
mid 2000s. It was all video games and pretty much Toonami once in a while, like if I wasn't too busy from a different job I was doing. Because like I said, I worked a lot. Ever
Right.
since I was 16, I had a job doing something, whether it was a golf course, whether it was working at a grocery store, whether it was, working at a radio station, and, what have you, whatever I could do to make my own money.
Right. Right. And then how did you get into YouTube, and what age were you when you started doing YouTube?
Shortly after I got married is when I did YouTube. So I believe on our honeymoon, we had this fun idea of just like posting random videos because it was a new platform.
Yeah.
So we had part of our reception where I almost roundhouse kicked the wedding cake, and then off camera I got yelled at. I was there with my groomsmen, and we were just kind of screwing around.
Yeah.
And we posted part of our honeymoon, like when we were at Six Flags New England, and Amber was inducted into the Justice League because they just opened the Justice League tour thing there, the Hall of Justice.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of cool. And just random, not even vlogs, they're just taking home movies, I guess you would call it. And then by 2007, there was a surgence of angry reviewers, we'll say. And Amber and I just used to watch them for kicks because we thought they were terrible. Because every game that they did, it was the same thing. They would just yell and scream and have profanity and whatever. And she was just like, well, you could do that. I was like, what do you mean? She says, well, the opposite of that. Why don't you talk about the different games that you like. And I was like, that would never work. But, in the back of my mind, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, but I think we should probably start with something, try to go with that trend of looking at bad games, but we'll look at a new game that just came out. And we were so distraught when we bought Spider-Man 3 on the Wii that nobody knew that it was a bad game. Like, so I did a review on it, and I don't know, I guess within a week it got 50,000 views. And I
Wow.
was like, what? And she was like, what? Um, so I just kind of did it off and on. And right around that time, I took the job as a teacher's aide. And there was some stuff that happened, lost the job, fell into depression. And then I went full
Teacher's
time.
aide. What do you mean? Like,
I was helping students with disabilities because I
okay,
have disabilities. So they thought I was a good fit for it.
right.
And my wife was working in another department at the school.
Okay, I see. I see.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but basically the kid said I said something I didn't, and he got the board to get me fired. And they tried to keep my wife on, but she was like, "No way, because you lied about my husband and you humiliated him and all this other stuff because they were taking advantage of my disabilities or whatever when I was trying to help these kids, and I was doing a good job. So that kind of stung. I didn't really have any other jobs at the time because the economy was terrible. So I just went to YouTube when I saw, how many views I was getting, and I used that to get more jobs in the industry, working for publications that were actually paying me something.
Right.
So YouTube was kind of like a springboard for that.
And this was around like 2008, roughly
Uh,
2009,
2007,
2007. Okay.
2008.
And how old are you?
I'm 36 now.
36. Okay,
So
cool.
when I started YouTube in, I want to say, I always get this wrong. Amber says I was between 22 or 23 when we got married. A year later is when I really started doing the YouTube thing.
Okay.
So we'll say around 24, 25 is when I started, maybe.
Gotcha. And how have you
I've been doing it a
seen?
long time.
Right, right. And yeah, so since you've been on the platform for so long, like, how would you say that YouTube has really changed over the years?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
YouTube made it very difficult for partners to even get partnered back when they first started the program. I know that. I tried for a year and a half and was denied every 3 months.
Wow.
Yep, I still have the rejection letters telling me that my content was terrible and it wasn't a good fit for their platform and all
What
this other stuff.
was this through an MCN or through YouTube?
No, this was YouTube itself.
Okay.
Uh, I applied for an MCN. I think it was Machinima, and they said no.
Oh, you lucked out.
And yeah, I had a lot of people who used to be at Machinima.
Ooh,
Actually,
yikes.
I did end up at Machinima before Warner Brothers owned them. They were the reason
Oh,
probably Batman channel did so well. It would have been right around the time Arkham Knight happened, but that was years later, and I had a very uh, detailed contract with them that I made them sign before they brought me on. But that's another story for another time. YouTube was pretty rough back in the days. MCNs were first starting out. And I was talking to my friend, Total Biscuit, aka John Bain, back in the day when he was with WoW Radio. And I was going to come on as a guest. And he was just starting out his YouTube channel, whereas before he was doing the Shining Force guides, which were amazing. That's actually how we met, is because of our love of Shining Force. And eventually he had to remove all that stuff if he was going to get partnered, which was a shame because it was some of the coolest like retro stuff ever. I still remember watching some of that. But there were people at his network, Game Station, that didn't want me on it. And John said they would be a fool not to partner me. So I was one of the last people in 2008 or 9 that was brought onto the Game Station. It was probably 2009, right around Christmas or Thanksgiving of that time. The contract was ugly. There are horror stories about Maker slash Game Station back in the day. I was
is
with
this
them.
Maker Studios?
This was
Oh
Maker
my
Studio.
God, I've had a horrible experience with them. Okay, continue.
Everything was okay with them for a while. They
Okay.
didn't really promote me. In fact, they heavily promoted Joe, like who came after me.
Yeah.
instead of me. I came up with a lot of ideas for their platform. Like I suggested a lot of content for their hub channel, and
Uh-huh.
because I saw Machinima doing something similar with that,
Yeah.
and they didn't really have a lot of ideas. They were a lot of people that just somehow they had the ability to start this network, but they were clueless. So they
Yeah.
basically did the hard news, which Screw Attack did, but they did their own variation of it. They did uploaded content. They did a ton of collabs, which in the beginning was actually smart. They would do this thing where everybody would, plug each other and tell their subscribers to go and basically sub for sub. And that's how so many of them actually blew up within a year and a half. Cox did it, Dodger did it, John did it, Joe did it, and some other people. But I didn't get onto that train. Like John helped me out the first year. Like we did a bunch of collabs together,
Yeah.
which were a lot of fun. I wrote scripts for different retro episodes with him, and he plugged my reviews. In fact, when I first came on, because it was so furious at the game station, he had one of my videos autoplaying on his channel. Because back in the day, there used to be a way to have different creators use a link, and then you could use that as an autoplay, and you would generate a lot of views off autoplay. You don't
Right.
anymore, but back then you did. And for an entire month, he picked his favorite review that I did, and he plugged it for an entire month.
Wow.
That was amazing. Yeah, he was a good guy. He really
That's
was.
awesome. So in terms of being a YouTuber, what would you say is your favorite part about being a YouTuber, and what's your least favorite part?
Favorite part about being a YouTuber is working with my wife because not many people say they get to do that. We've been working together since 2008. She was very huge behind the scenes, helping like with proofreading of my scripts and um, basically helping me visualize how I wanted to do the many different reviews I did. And I did like 300 or something in 3 or 4 years back then. And she was instrumental with that. She helped with gameplay recording with me, helped keep me on task. And then we took a gamble with the, what do you call it? The Let's Plays in 2010. And based on the success of that, we started our own channel in 2012, I believe. Yeah, that's when King's Let's Plays was. And we've been doing it ever since. The worst part of YouTube is probably the CPM, the ads.
Yeah.
Uh, it's always been a roller coaster, but I've been on this platform and a partner since the beginning, and I've never seen the ads this low in my
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. It's
And
low.
it's for people that are full time and have this is their livelihood, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
It's not even a good time to really join the platform at all. I would go to Twitch. I would go to Twitch or Facebook because YouTube is a mess right now, and I don't know if it's going to get better, to be honest.
Yeah. And to me, it's so weird because different content creators will have totally different CPMs, and it's just so bizarre because you're still showing the video in front of 1,000 people. Like, I don't know what's particularly more valuable about 1,000 viewers on CNN's channel versus some other channel. So I think that the way the whole system works is kind of bizarre.
Once companies started coming onto the platform, that's when the whole ad thing changed.
Yeah, thousand
Like
percent.
I noticed, oh yeah, well I can say it now, but back in the day, before CNN and a lot of these publications came on, like I was a very lucrative channel. Like I was very important to whatever network I was on. Our average was $25 CPM.
Oh my lord,
Hmm.
are you serious?
I'm serious. I was
That's
making serious,
crazy.
serious bank for about 3 years.
Wow.
I lived in Boston, dude. You
Wow.
know?
And was that during like around Arkham Knight or what?
No. That would have been 2012
Okay.
through 2014. And
Okay.
then the CPM dropped to about $15, and then it went to 10. It stayed around 12 to 10 for 2 years after that,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah. Um okay, so let's talk about some of the other connections that you've made in the industry. Like you were just talking about Total Biscuit. Would you say that you have a lot of friends in the industry?
People I'm still friends with, or people I know?
I would say still friends with. Like, do you think
Uh,
you've made a lot of friends from your business here?
I did. When we left Maker, a lot of those friendships crumbled.
Why do you think
So
that is?
Well, Maker kind of blacklisted me, and they said some things to some of my friends that I really wish the friends didn't believe that stuff because it smeared my reputation before we left. They were mad because we had a very high CPM. And when we
Okay.
pulled out, it affected their network. But we didn't know even how much they were siphoning our income back in the day.
Yeah.
So when we went to a smaller network and kind of like helped that network grow, we
Yeah.
realized how important we were.
Yep.
Because, they were actually doing a lot of bad stuff behind the scenes before Disney bought them. I know Disney went in and changed some things, but early Maker was doing some incredibly shady stuff.
I was partnered with them. I know. I hated Maker, and granted, I obviously wasn't nearly as big of a channel as you are,
I
but
didn't know it was.
right,
Like I
right.
Because the way they were explaining it to me, it's like I had a $20 CPM and they were like, "Well, this doesn't really necessarily mean you make this. This is,"
Yeah.
and that was a lie. There was
100%.
different yeah, there were different percentages they were taking out of our paycheck for years. And when I
Wow.
found out about it, I left
Yeah.
because it was like, "Oh my gosh, we've been struggling and we're making all these videos, we're doing all this." And it was bad, And
Yeah.
then we joined up with a smaller network, which was the best time in our life because we got to keep what we actually made.
Yeah.
You know, it was, oh my gosh, it was like winning the lotto. It was insane.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That
that's never going to happen again, though.
yeah, no, I totally get you there. And it's just such a predatory business, honestly, and especially for channels small like mine.
Mhm.
These companies would approach me, and I'm like a 15-year-old kid, and I'm really excited about signing these contracts, and I feel so professional and whatnot, and I'm literally like signing my channel away, my small little channel for them to exploit for years, and it's just ridiculous. And how they make the contracts, it's just totally unfair. But
Well, the good thing about being a minor, though, see, I was an adult.
right,
Minor, there are a lot of laws that you can use to get out of your contract. If you signed up when you were a minor, there's a lot of stuff you can do, and the companies can't do anything about it.
right,
If you really know how the law works, then you can use that to your advantage.
right.
But I
Definitely.
didn't. I didn't have that. In fact, when we left Maker, they tried to sue us.
Really? But
I
they
also that was when I was going to get my job at IGN and be a big part of the IGN start team.
yeah.
And Maker basically burned down my bridge with IGN that I had been building since 2004.
Wow.
They
So did
tore.
they contact people at IGN and talk bad
I have
behind your
no
back?
idea what they did. All I know is my contacts never spoke to me again. Um,
Whoa.
and I was no longer going to be a part of the IGN Start thing, which was kind of like their own little YouTube network that they were going to start up, and they were going to bring in the O1 channel back then,
Okay.
and make basically said that if I went with them, because I was like, this is my dream job. I've been working at all these smaller publications so I could finally go to IGN. I
Yeah.
wanted to be part of IGN Nintendo or IGN Comics. Either one of those would have been great.
Yeah.
That's what I always wanted. But then they burned it down and they were trying to do this thing that they said if I made content similar to that, they were going to sue me because they own my channel, is what they said. But somehow I don't remember how we got out of our contract, but we managed to, and things got better for us. And then Disney came in and basically wiped them all out. Like all those big higher ups were gone.
Yeah.
Then I think it was like 3 to 6 months. They just totally clean house.
Interesting.
Yep. And then Disney begged us to join when we were doing our Disney Infinity numbers, and Amber and I said no politely for 3 years
Yeah.
because yeah, we got burned by them. Why in the world would we go,
Right.
work with any branch of them? No way.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Hmm.
Um so shifting topics a little bit. I remember I saw
Yeah,
a
no
tw-
problem.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Oh, I remember I saw a couple years ago, I think, you tweeted something about politics and how you didn't like following people that tweeted excessively about politics. Um, s- so, what do you think? Like, do you think that this sort of industry, like the entertainment mediums more broadly, are they like too politicized? Do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. And
I have to be very, very careful because I work with so many big brands now
yeah,
that I didn't know I would be, but I don't follow a lot of their personal stuff because I mean I talk to them on emails and
sure.
texts and things like that, but I can't follow their Twitter and other things because if it's non-brand associated, then the stuff that's on there is just it's out of control. It's out of control on both sides, but it's really bad.
Yeah.
Like so many times I erase Twitter off my phone. The only social media thing that I use a lot on my phone is probably Instagram
Huh.
because Twitter is just like to see there's so much anger and so much hate for one another, like on what was supposed to be a fun social media platform, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. It's really bad. And the problem is, back in the day, there were people who didn't agree with me politically, like working at a different publication or whatever. But you didn't end a friendship or a job over that. I know people that have been kicked out of the comic book industry working at Marvel and DC that were considered pro comic people, like
Yeah.
comic pros, you know.
Yep.
They were driven out of their field because of who they voted for or who they didn't for president. That is insane.
It's insane. It shouldn't be legal. It really
No,
shouldn't be.
it shouldn't. It shouldn't be. And I mean, you can have professional relationships like completely terminated within, I would say, the past 3 years. This has been going on now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Instead of publications doing things about video games, they're doing things about politics and feelings. And you have to like basically subscribe to like one of those mailing lists to actually find out what's going on in the gaming industry, whether it's indie or Nintendo or anything, because the people that work for these companies, they're out there doing everything but their job. And they
Yeah.
shouldn't be allowed to do this.
Yeah, and politics is being infused into the art itself. It's being infused into the comic books, into the video
Oh my
games,
God.
such that you can't really separate it. So therefore, the industry and the journalism and that all aspect, it has to be politicized because the content itself is becoming more politicized.
It all I know is it just gives me a huge headache.
Yeah.
It's like so I try to basically keep my communications with these different brand companies. Not going to say who they are, but there's a lot that we deal with. Some are very popular children's brands, others are comic book related. We tend to keep our communication with them very businesslike. We never try to get too personal about any type of political belief or anything like that. We just try to keep on the topic on hand. And for the most part, we seem to have a very good working relationship with these companies. But in the back of my mind, yeah, I worry about when I like something on my Twitter or I stand up for, a voice actor or, uh, you know, anybody that has been wrongfully targeted by different things. It's like in the back of my mind, it's like, I could be putting my whole career on the line sometimes. And it scares my wife. It really does. Because, I mean, sometimes doing the right thing leads to horrible consequences. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be like, I disagree with you, you disagree with me, but we can still do our job and we can still be respectful and kind to one another
Yeah.
and be adults. But everybody's acting kind of like basically school children at recess where they're, dividing up the playground and, it's almost like gang wars in a sense, turf wars.
It really
It,
is. I think that's a great way of putting it. I think that that's totally fair. So, um, So one final question, and then we'll kind of get into regarding like YouTube and your experience with it, and then we'll get into what's coming up for you on the channel. Um, so I asked for questions from my viewers about what questions they have for you, and I said I might take some fan questions and stuff, and they were all related to Batman. So do you do you like that you have the persona as like the Batman guy, or do you sometimes wish that like you kind of you know what I'm saying? Or do you kind of wish that you were known as like more in just like the pop culture space? You know what I'm saying?
no, I'm typecast. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
My DC contact still calls me the Batman guy. Warner Brothers people, and it's over. Um, I haven't tried to shake it, until a Batman game comes out, though. I'm just kind of like grasping at straws. I've tried to do other content over the years, tried to bring back game reviews. The audience that I've amassed, it's all Batman. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And it's not a problem because I'm thankful because that character is somebody that Amber and I really bond over. We both have like, good experiences from the animated series when we were kids. And I have all this useless knowledge in my head about, a fictional character that I can use to, for career stuff, which is great because, there's always going to be stuff about this character.
Right.
And I feel very fortunate to be able to even work with a character like this, let alone the company that made him. And, it's not what I expected. Like you said, the one thing I always wanted was to be a variety person. I wanted to not be put in a category. But at the same time, I appreciate that so many people see me as that and, they contact my Twitter or they leave questions. I do my best to answer them. Sometimes I have to go and, do a little bit of research again to make sure that what I'm telling them is totally true and not just like offhand in the back of my mind from 30 years ago or something like that. And it's fun. It's fun to answer their questions and to just keep them in the loop about what's going on because I'm a lifelong fan of the character and the fact that there's so much abundance of things to talk about it. Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty blessed with that. It's not really a curse like Adam West saw,
Right.
the Batman.
Right.
And Kevin Conroy, he never saw it as a curse because he continued to get opportunities because of that character. And even now,
We just saw
he's
today,
going
right?
to, yeah, he's going to be the live action Bruce Wayne.
That's awesome.
That's it's got to be a huge thing for him. And, it makes me really happy as a Batman fan to see all this stuff. And
Yeah, I just hate the
um,
CW that they're actually going to make me watch that. I just can't believe it.
you and me
Just
both. I gave up on the
can't believe
CW.
it. Me too. Okay, so you evoked the new Batman game a couple seconds ago. So let me just ask, what are your thoughts on what's taking, what's kind of the holdup with this DC game, and also if you had to bet money and you can only pick one, you can only have one guess. What is your guess for what Rocksteady's making, and what's your guess for what W Montreal is making?
I don't really know. All I know is I've told people this, and I joke with Arkham videos about this. If a Batman game was really being revealed, I would be down there because WP would fly me down. Every time they've revealed a Batman game, I have been at E3 or I've been to, the Warner Brothers lot, whatever you want to call it, their studio. And since I haven't been flown down or even my contact won't tell me other than DC game, I don't know what's going on. I really want to believe it's a Batman game. I am really annoyed with Warner Brothers because this is the 80th anniversary of Batman. This is supposed to be the big year where you do all your announcements,
Yeah.
where you steal the thunder from Marvel and you do all this stuff, and they're just playing it way too safe. Instead of doing a Lego Batman collection, they're doing a Lego Jurassic Park, which had very, very, very bad reception. It's a horrible game, but it did nowhere near the numbers of Lego Batman, any of them. And this is the year, especially Switch with all the ports, they could easily, easily throw together a collection of the first three Lego Batman games, and people would eat it up because this year is a hype year for The Dark Knight, and they're not
Yeah.
doing that. So I've had words with them exchanged, both email and on the phone about what's going on with their Lego brand. Um, and in terms of, I think I would probably expect, don't quote me on this, but WB Games Montreal is probably going to do something with whatever property they're working on, either reveal this year or next. Rocksteady, I have no idea. They're working on something. They haven't told me whether it's DC or not. They just say, I'm going to be happy. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by I'm going to be happy? Like, what do you think makes me happy? All these years later, what's going on with this? And that's all they said. You'll be happy.
They're like, you
It's
like My
like,
Little Pony, right? Yeah, if so, you'll be really happy.
I made fun of bronies back when it was fun.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I had a ad at the end of my video, or like I don't even know what they called them back. It was like an end screen. End screens have changed so much.
Yeah,
but I
with the
used
end
to
cards.
be
Yeah.
riding on top of, I think it was Twilight Sparkle with a lightsaber chasing off something.
Really?
Oh yeah,
That's
I was
funny.
just I like to tease pop culture back in the day. It was fun.
Yeah. So kind of more broadly, like what state do you think DC is in right now? Speaking about the video games, they're not really as much on the ball as they maybe were, let's say in 2011, 2012, 2013, that kind of range. And more broadly, also going down the line to animated movies, Batman Hush has been met with very mixed reception. Batman Bad Blood a couple years ago.
Mhm.
What's the trajectory of DC right now?
DC made a huge mistake. Like the reason why you don't see an overabundance of video games and we'll say interesting things that people want right now is because of the state of the DC cinematic universe. The reason why we had an oversaturation of Batman games and shows and everything was because of the success of Nolan's Batman films.
Yeah,
That
you're
was the
right.
reason why everybody took so many risks with Batman and why Batman was everywhere. Batman was in every DC game that came out between 2005 through 2015, 16, something like that.
Yeah.
Like they really heavily pushed that character because, he was more than mainstream. I mean, the guy was iconic. You could not release a terrible Batman product until maybe arguably with the Telltale thing, but
Yeah.
point and click games aren't really on the up and up anymore anyway. That's why that company kind of, is
Right.
gone.
Yeah.
But um had, and I'm just throwing it out there, if Justice League was successful, you would have gotten a reveal of the next Batman game. You would have got hype for the next Batman cartoon. Right now, DC is playing it way too safe because they think the public hates Batman. So they're not willing to risk their money making property. See, Marvel went and they did everything with their B string or C string characters like the Avengers,
Right.
and their A string, like X Men, was kind of floundering a little bit. So they didn't really do a lot to push them to the forefront anymore. And then they brought in their S tier character, Spider Man, and they're just, really relying on that character again, and it's
Yeah.
paying off for them. But Batman is DC's S tier. And the fact that they're not really playing with him a lot right now and they're being super safe is because the movies didn't work out for them. They were banking on that Justice League stuff and Ben Affleck's movie to, keep that high going for them. And when that stuff fell apart, they're like, wait a second. Maybe people are saying they don't like Batman, so we shouldn't release the next Batman video game, or we shouldn't do the next Batman cartoon, or we should invest in other projects. And, because of that, yeah, we didn't have the next WB game, Montreal Batman game so soon, or Rocksteady's next project. It's because it's all marketing. You don't tend to release a character when things aren't going the way you want it to. And Warner Brothers always has a track record of this. There wasn't even a lot of Batman games after the Schumacher films failed. Batman games kind of disappeared
Hmm.
after, I want to say, 95.
Right.
Ubisoft took a risk right around the time of the the fourth Batman animated series. Yeah, the fourth season,
Yeah.
the new adventures. They took a risk and they did Batman Vengeance and they did Rise of Sin Tzu and they did a bunch of the Game Boy games and things like that. And those did okay, but it still wasn't really enough to make this character interesting in the video game market. And then, of course, you had the horrible Batman Dark Tomorrow a couple years later, and that kind of killed Batman for video games entirely. After that, like
Right.
people were like, "Oh dear God, what was this?" And that was it. And then Batman Begins kind of brought it all back, and even their movie game was actually decent. Like that 2005 Batman
Yeah.
Begin games, that was not horrible, and people are like, wait a second, maybe, just maybe, Batman games will work. And, by 2009, we got Arkham Asylum and just so many different types of Batman games, Lego Batman games, Batman Brave and the Bold Batman games, every type of game you can think of starring the Dark Knight. So DC, they're waiting for the next big hit. I would even say, and I hope I'm wrong about this, but I really don't see a lot of Batman games until around 2021 or 2022, maybe. And if that movie does poorly, then we'll probably go another 5 years without a Batman game.
Wow.
That's my feeling, just based on how long I've been in this industry and the trends I've seen that DC does. Same thing with their movies. When their movies start to dive more and just become mediocre, they're just going to scrap so many things. Like the Batman Hush movie was mediocre because they did some things. I knew they weren't going to do anything with Jason Todd, which was upsetting because it would be nice to kind of introduce that character because he's popular. But they were like, nope, we're not going to do that. Not going to do anything with Tim Drake. We're going to use the same art style because people like it. No, people don't like it. You just have a certain group of people that just keep buying the same thing over and over again.
Right.
What people want is they want a true Justice League reunion movie. That's what they want. They will buy that in droves. They want more Elseworlds movies, which have shown to be successful. Batman Ninja, Batman Gotham by Gaslight. You know, those movies did really well because they're not the same type of forced continuity that they're doing for the New 52 films,
Right.
which the New 52 films have lasted more than the New 52 comics. So my thinking is it's time for a DC rebirth with animated movies. That's where I would go with it if I had any pull, which I don't.
Right.
I'm just an influencer who got lucky with so many various contacts over the years. So I still don't know how it happened. They reached out to me back in the day.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, when I was pulling about 100 or 200,000 views for a Batman video, yeah, that's how I ended up meeting them.
And their studio, is it out here in LA that they've flown you out to?
Uh, it's in California,
Okay.
like your game studio.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And cool. Okay, so now last question I really had for you is I believe you're making a 10-year anniversary special of the Batman Arkham franchise. So tell us a little bit about that, and then also just kind of what's coming up next for the channel.
Oh gosh, I tweeted about this a while ago, but it was true. So while the footage and stuff is fine, I was working on that documentary for about 6 months,
Whoa.
and yeah, I was working on a portable hard drive. My cat decided to knock over my water bottle. So the hard drive got fried. All the clips of the different gameplay and commercials and things that I've accumulated over 6 months for the game, because I had to go through and basically make the game look better because the PS3 quality stuff just doesn't.
Yeah.
Even though the atmosphere and stuff was really cool in Arkham Asylum, the footage didn't really mesh well with the other stuff that I was working with. But while the script is okay, and some other stuff, the actual video itself is dead because I can't open up that what do you call it? Like that save thing. You know
Yeah.
when you make a movie and there's like a save thing attached to it and you can just open it up and mess with
Right.
it again.
Right.
I don't know what they call those files, but that's all gone. That entire hard drive was ruined. Luckily, because I'm a crazy person, I back up all my work because years ago I had a bunch of my videos get claimed on YouTube and I lost those videos. So for the past 3 years, 4 years, I've been making up backups of not just the Let's Plays we do, but the actual clips. So I've got like probably 20. No, yeah, it's a box. It's about 20 portable hard drives that have everything that we've done the past probably 4 years. You
Whoa.
know, after where I upload them. I mean, it's my legacy. I got 6,000 videos on the Let's Play channel, and I got 2,000 on the O1. So I mean, I
Right.
want a backup of that stuff, and I also have a server that's constantly running that's got like 20 terabytes or something on there that I, send through my personal network and I back it up there as well. So while I can get to the Batman footage again, there's no way I will have this documentary done until next year, if I even get time to do it again. We're running into the fall months now for the Let's Play channel, so that means I'm going to be super busy. I was working on it during dead months, when there was really nothing to do. And I'm still furious at the cat, actually, because she almost wiped out my laptop when that happened.
Wow.
But thankfully, just fried the drive and my older 3DS capture card that was attached at the time.
I gotcha.
Which
So,
nobody really uses the 3DS capture cards anyway. I still have my new 3DS one, but one of my older ones is gone.
right. Um,
Cats are serious. I will be doing a live stream for the 10 years of Arkham on the 25th,
cool.
or probably be the Return to Arkham game, or it might be the PS3 one, but I had a PS3 catch fire last year when I was trying to use it, so I don't
Wow.
think I want to risk a really long 7-hour stream with my PS3. It'd probably be the Return to Arkham version, which people are probably like, no, but yeah, it's going to be a celebration stream.
Awesome.
That's all I'm doing for now
For
with that.
and that's on October 25th.
No, August is when Arkham Asylum came out 10 years ago.
Is it really? Interesting. I
10
thought
years
it
of
was
Arkham.
October 25th. Not sure why I thought that. Okay, anyway. Cool
I think you're
deal.
thinking Arkham City.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, awesome. That's pretty much all the questions for me. Do you have any final words?
Any final words? Not really. I mean, I just I'm still here.
I'm sorry, I was just putting you on the spot there.
No, no,
Uh,
I'm. It was nice you said all that stuff about me because I'm kind of like the secret of the internet. Outside of the Batman stuff, people still think that Kwing's Let's Plays is like a not even connected to my brand, and it's like, how do you figure that? It's me, and you've even heard we had gaming with the Kwings on the O1 channel first
yeah,
because it kind of gave birth to its own channel because people are like, oh, I don't want to see Batman content and goofy Let's Plays on the same channel, but it's like you do realize that the Arkham stuff is lore and Let's Play, right? It's
right.
like it's not really different. The only thing different is the game is darker and there's all this different stuff happening, but it's still the same type of content, which I've never understood that.
And I wonder if the people on your O1 channel that don't watch your Let's Play channel actually know that your Let's Play channel has had more views and has more subscribers, and in that sense, it's actually like a bigger channel.
I know it
So
actually was because when we were pulling like 1 million views for the Disney stuff, which I hated it because I didn't like Disney and we had a contract with Disney and all this other stuff.
right.
But that was the only time I really didn't like my job because I'd be writing a lore or I'd be working on a review and I'd be like, well, I would like to record a week's worth of Disney Infinity today. And you only have to do 5 videos and then I'm going to build a castle. It's like, okay. So I go there and I'm like a grump the entire time. And those videos just skyrocket in views. And it's like, I look back at those and it's like, oh man, I sound miserable. It was
Wow.
fun doing the versus videos because it was like, I got to beat up Amber with like Disney characters, which was
Yeah.
kind of funny. But I wasn't expecting that channel to go past the O1 channel within 2 years of its lifespan. That was crazy for me. I felt like I'd worked on that other channel for almost 10 years, and here's this brand new channel. It surpassed my other one. It was a very humbling experience, but I was like, you know what? That's the channel that she and I made together, and I really hope that it gets 1 million subs someday or 500,000 or something like that. But it's hidden. It needs it needs people to find it. We basically have like a rotating group of viewers that watch us every month, and then after that, we're gone for an entire several months or years for them. They can't even access our channel. It says this channel is not available in your region, or
Wow.
this channel doesn't exist. And they send me screenshots, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And then when they did the notifications thing, 6% of our audience on a daily basis will get our videos and streams,
Yeah,
which is why
that's
the views are so low.
it's a total scam. I mean, even with the Daily Wire, in looking at like we get comments all the time that people just don't get notifications. Like that's the number one comment in almost every video is that I have the bell turned on, I have always notify, and I didn't get notifications. So I don't know what's going on with that system.
It doesn't work.
It just doesn't
It
work, I guess.
no, it doesn't work. Most
It's
of these channels, the reason why they are able to have such a high view on YouTube, it's not coming from YouTube. It's coming from social media. It's coming from. They don't tell you this though. They have like 100,000 or 20 or 30, 40,000 people on their Twitter. They're bringing traffic in that way. They also have their own subreddits. They have their forum sites. They got their Discords. There's a lot of other sources of stream traffic, we'll say, coming for their videos that they're uploading.
right.
If they were just going by their YouTube thing, then they would be maybe, we'll say, a channel that does 100,000 views a video. In reality, they would do about 10,000 views, like off their YouTube channel itself, if
It's
they didn't
crazy.
have their social media presence.
And it's
Because
so
you can't,
interesting to see how they're moving away from the sub box, which was like the main thing about YouTube is subscriptions and who you subscribe to. And now it doesn't matter. It's all about the homepage and it's all about the algorithm now.
yep, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Subscribers don't matter.
It's
What
crazy. It's
matters
just
is people
ridiculous.
hitting, Yeah, hitting the bell and hoping, that it works out, but it doesn't tend to. So,
It's crazy. Well, we could talk about this for hours more, but we already went over the time that I told your PR guy that it was going to be 30 minutes. So I apologize about that. But
no,
thanks for.
no. I mean, I have to cook pizza in a little while. You got a couple more questions or whatever, it's fine. You don't need to worry about Tony.
You
Tony's
know what?
just
You know what? We have some rapid fire fan questions. So let's go through those. I have four questions. One's
sure.
from Michael Spiderbro, and he says, "What do you want to see in a new Batman game that is different from the other Arkham games?"
I want to see the ability to switch in and out of different characters. I would really like to remember in Arkham Knight where Robin and Batman played one level together. I
Yes.
want that, but I want a full game. I want the ability to go back to the Batcave as kind of like your hub where you can select different missions. You could talk to Oracle or, Jim. I actually want to bat grapple on top of the GCPD building and get different cases that Gordon has for us, and we decide, what one we want to do. And I would like actually the game not to take place just during the night. I would like to see, a night and day cycle and like weeks and months. I'd like the story to span more than just one day. I would like them to expand on that a lot more. And vehicles, definitely vehicles.
Definitely. Joaquin Fernandez says, "What are your thoughts on a Nightwing Batgirl movie?"
Yes, please.
Yeah. Don't think it'll
Uh,
happen though. They announced that Batgirl. Well, they announced them as separate movies like 4 years ago, and there's nothing about them. So.
well, the Nightwing movie is still heavily in development.
Oh, it is. Okay.
I've been pestering the director because it's Nightwing.
Have you
And
really?
I'm
That's funny.
still I'm still trying to get that Power Ranger guy noticed because I think he would make a good Nightwing. The dude who played the Blue Ranger in Dino Charge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because I mean he's a martial artist, a stunts guy. He's also a huge Nightwing fan. Understands the character. It's important when you cast Dick Grayson that it be a character that's very optimistic, has charisma,
Yeah.
martial arts, acrobatics, just like they got it right with Tom Holland for Spidey. I mean, the dude was a gymnast. That was brilliant casting. He's small like Peter Parker is.
Yep.
He's witty. So, I mean, that is a character that really works well. So with Nightwing, you don't want to bring in somebody like Zac Efron or, some Hollywood guy. You want a relative unknown, but you also want somebody that's incredibly gifted in the categories I just mentioned because as the director said, this is going to be a very exhaustive role.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what
Yeah,
I
and
would.
it seems to me that selecting kind of an unknown sort of plays into the lore of Dick Grayson just being kind of like a regular guy and not anyone
Exactly.
exceedingly extraordinary in that way too.
And Brandon Routh was he was an unknown when he did Superman, and had
Right.
he a better director and script, it would have been a great Superman movie.
Yeah.
He has a
Absolutely.
chance to actually, make amends to that, which he's psyched about, and that's another reason to see CW's show, is the whole Superman Returns thing. But he's too old, or no, he's too young to play Kingdom Come Superman. That role should go to Dean
Yeah.
Cain, and then Routh should be a different Superman. I don't know what Earth Superman he should be, but I think that Kingdom Come Superman is a bit too young for Routh.
Yeah. Yeah.
My personal.
Um, cool. So Ryan asks, "What are your predictions for the Joker movie?" Keeping in mind that I think I saw a video from you discussing like the whole plot was leaked basically. So keeping that in mind, what are your predictions for the Joker movie?
It, it's not going to have anything to do with the character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people thinking, oh wow, this is going to be like a Killing Joke thing. It's like,
It's so depressing.
no, no,
Oh, I
no,
can't believe they did that. It's
nope.
devastating.
This is a offshoot movie. I don't think we'll ever see this Joker again. They're already trying to bring the movie to different film festivals because it is a very compelling story from what I hear. Um, and I may see it. I don't know because it's kind of like Gotham in the sense that they just kind of threw out all the important stuff and they're just using the character's name. I
Yeah.
don't even think, yeah, he's not even married in it. He has like a super obsession with his mom, which is weird. And
Are you
it's a
kidding me?
very Joaquin, yeah, it's a very Joaquin Phoenix driven movie where it's very possible that Thomas Wayne is going to be his real dad and Bruce Wayne is going to be his brother. And it's just kind of like, why? So, I I don't know what to think.
It's
It's
called a
just
Cino, character in name only. That's what this movie is. It's because if they made this movie about this crazy guy that's like a clown and it wasn't called Joker, it would make 2 cents at the box office. So,
well, the director is also obsessed with that serial killer from the 70s, so that's why Joaquin Phoenix's makeup is based after that 70s serial killer.
really interesting.
Yes.
I never knew
Yes.
this. Yeah, I'll probably check it out. My hopes are very low for it. It's not the Joker movie that I would pick, and a lot of people become very defensive whenever I
It's a
say,
crime movie. I mean,
yeah, but that's not what I would want out of a Joker film
no,
when there's so
no,
much
no.
lore there, you know?
No, people would love to do a Killing Joke movie, but they only do subtle nods to it. I mean, personally, yeah, if the movie's successful, I would love to see more individual DC movies. I think the movie is going to be a breakaway hit. I really have my misgivings why it would, but Joaquin Phoenix, he looks cool, and a lot of people from, that are talking about this different movie are saying that it's going to be like one of the biggest movies this year, and it's just kind of like, I don't really see how, but okay. And I don't think I'm going to go to an early screening for it because it just doesn't interest me. After learning so much of it, it's just kind of like, it's not my Joker.
Yeah.
If Jared Leto comes back as a Joker too in that not Suicide Squad, that Harley Quinn movie, I don't know anymore.
I don't think
Uh,
Joker's going to be in it, but I could be wrong. But he
There,
may very it might be a secret or surprise. Yeah.
it's not really a secret. I don't even know how to say this, but there are things floating around that Black Mask and Joker are vying for control of Gotham after the disappearance of Batman. And that's why Batman is not going to play a big role in this. He'll be talked about, but just like Affleck, he's AWOL. So,
To me, it just drives me crazy when films do this because in the comic books, there's never this like, well, we evoke his name, but we won't actually show him in the movie. And they do that all the time with the characters that we love the most, like Joker and Batman. And like even in Suicide Squad, it's the same thing. It's like, well, they talk about Batman a lot, but he's in the movie for 4 seconds. But it's really tough to tell the story of the Joker and Harley and Suicide Squad and like all of these characters without these A-list DC characters in them, and without them, it's kind of like something's missing in my view. So
but you actually see Batman in Suicide
right,
Squad, though. He
right,
actually shows up. He has a presence that you can feel in the movie,
exactly,
even though he's not always there. And that was handled okay. It's the other stuff that
right,
didn't work in that movie.
yeah,
They should have made Joker the main villain, and they did a bunch of cop out things that just wasn't necessary.
right. Okay, so final question comes from Man of Steel 102. He says, "Do you think?" Well, this is kind of what we talked about earlier, but he says, "Do you think DC will turn out better in terms of their comics in the future and come out with better storytelling?"
That's a tough question.
Yeah,
DC Comics and Marvel right now have a lot of, we'll say, how do I put this? They have a lot of writers that have agendas, we'll say. And it's hurting the comic book industry. It's hurting stories. It's hurting characters. And it's not a good fit. If they could root out the people that are causing problems in the industry and rooting these characters in their stories and story possibilities and potentials, then I believe that DC and Marvel can bounce back. But they have to have the stones to do it, and they just like basically hiring people off the street. So, you know, I don't know. I never thought I would see comic books close or even come to the point where they could be terminated in the next like 5 or 6 years, but that's the reality. And that's kind of terrifying because as much as I like manga and anime, I don't want it to be the more popular medium here in America because comic books are our thing. It's been with us for 80, 90 years. To
yeah,
see it just like destroyed in under 10 years is just, it's mortifying, you know?
definitely. It really is. Um, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the channel. Really enjoyed speaking with you, and I will link Kwing's channel in the description below, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Working with some other talent and guests to try to bring them on the show as well and interview them. If you have any suggestions of who I should reach out to, definitely leave that in the comment section below. Kwing, thanks again so much for coming on the channel.
Yeah, no problem. Good luck with the Daily Wire.
Thank you. And thanks again for watching, guys. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. My name is Slickmoth, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.